The transparent dome of the Lino Station's summit chamber afforded an unparalleled view of the galaxy's spiral arm, a breathtaking backdrop to what Ambassador Mira Tanaka could only describe as the most disastrous diplomatic failure in human history. 6 months of negotiations had come to this, not with compromise, but with ultimatum. "The Council's decision is unanimous," announced High Magistrate Vexar, his crystalline form refracting light across the chamber. His voice, synthesized through translator arrays, conveyed no emotion, only cold certainty. Humanity must accept containment within its current territorial boundaries. Further expansion will be considered an act of aggression against all Council species. Mira maintained her diplomatic composure, though internally she felt the weight of 4 billion lives pressing down upon her shoulders. The 30 years since first contact had been a delicate dance. Humanity, treading carefully among the stars, while the 3 dominant species, the crystalline Vexar, the insectoid Thra Collective, and the reptilian Zapirian Imperium, watched with growing suspicion. "The containment proposal is effectively a death sentence for our species," Mira replied, her voice steady despite her rising anger. "Earth's resources are finite. Our population continues to grow. We have demonstrated peaceful intentions in every interaction since first contact." Grand Admiral Cathran of the Zapirian Imperium hissed softly. Scales shifting in what Mira had learned was an expression of dismissal. "Peaceful intentions are irrelevant. Power balance is the only currency of consequence in galactic politics. Ambassador, your species lacks sufficient military presence to warrant consideration of your desires." The Thra Hive. Matron's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sound Mira's translator rendered with metallic efficiency. "Your kind reproduces too quickly, spreads too eagerly. The collective has observed 17 human colony attempts in the past decade alone. This pattern matches historical aggression profiles of numerous extinct species." Mira leaned forward, frustration finally cracking her professional veneer. "Those were scientific outposts and mining operations, not military installations. Humanity needs resources." "As do we all," interrupted Vexar. "Resources are allocated according to military capability and historical claims. Earth has neither." The crystal being's facets glinted coldly under the chamber's lights. "You have 30 standard cycles to begin dismantling outposts beyond your home system. Compliance will be monitored. Non-compliance will trigger collective response." Mira stood slowly, gathering the dignity of her office around her like armor. "The Earth Confederation cannot accept these terms. We request an emergency session with the full Council." "Request denied," all 3 alien delegates responded in near-perfect unison. In that moment, Ambassador Mira Tanaka, career diplomat, lifelong advocate for peaceful coexistence, realized that her mission had failed. Not because of any diplomatic misstep, but because the game had been rigged from the start. The galactic powers had never intended to treat humanity as equals. They had simply been allowing humans to play at independence while deciding their fate. "Then I must consult with my government," she said finally, gathering her datapad and notes. Her team, 5 humans who had spent years preparing for this summit, exchanged glances of quiet desperation. "Consult if you must," Vexar stated. "But the Council's decision is final. Containment or consequences. Ambassador, there is no third option." As Mira and her team departed the chamber, she fought to maintain her composure. Only when they reached the privacy of their diplomatic shuttle did she allow herself to sink into a seat, hands trembling slightly. "They never intended to negotiate," said her chief advisor, Thomas Wright. "This was theater, nothing more." "6 months of theater," Mira replied bitterly, "while they positioned their fleets and prepared for enforcement." Her communications officer, Layla Qasim, looked up from her console. "Ambassador, I've established a secure channel to Earth. Admiral Shepard and Director Cho are standing by." Mira took a deep breath, straightening her posture and clearing her mind. What she was about to say would change human history forever. "Open the channel," she ordered. "Authorization code Tanaka Echo Foxtrot, 97 Omega." The holographic display flickered to life, revealing the stern faces of Earth's military commander and the civilian director of advanced research. "Ambassador Tanaka," Admiral Carter Shepard acknowledged, his weathered face grave. "I take it the negotiations have failed." "Completely," Mira confirmed. "They've issued an ultimatum: containment or destruction. No compromise. No further discussion." Director Elena Cho's expression darkened. "Then we have no choice." "Before we proceed," Mira said carefully, "I need to know exactly what Foliage protocol entails. I've been briefed only that it exists as our contingency. If I'm to be the one who activates it, I deserve to know what I'm unleashing." Admiral Shepard and Director Cho exchanged a glance before the Admiral nodded. "You're right. Secure the channel to highest encryption, and I'll explain." Layla worked quickly at her console. "Done, Ambassador. We're isolated from all monitoring." "Foliage Protocol," began Admiral Shepard, "is humanity's insurance policy. For over a century, while we've presented the face of a modest, newly spacefaring civilization, we've been building in secret, shipyards hidden in asteroid fields, manufacturing facilities buried on dead moons, research stations camouflaged as mining outposts." Director Cho continued, her voice calm but intense. "We've developed technologies the Council believes are decades beyond our reach. Advanced propulsion, weapon systems, shielding. We've built a fleet that, when activated, will rival any of the three major powers." Mira felt the blood drain from her face. "You're telling me we've been lying to the galaxy for a century?" "We've been surviving," Admiral Shepard corrected firmly. "History taught us that emerging civilizations rarely fare well when encountered by established powers. The indigenous peoples of Earth's colonial age should have taught us that lesson clearly enough." "But a fleet?" Mira pressed. "How could we hide something of that magnitude?" Director Cho's expression was grim. "By building where no one looks, in systems deemed uninhabitable or resource-poor by Council standards. By developing stealth technology as our first priority. By maintaining the appearance of a modest, unthreatening species while preparing for exactly this day." Mira struggled to process this revelation. Her entire diplomatic career had been predicated on genuine pursuit of peaceful coexistence. To learn that her own government had been operating under such profound deception shook her to her core. "I understand your shock, Ambassador," Admiral Shepard said, his voice softening slightly. "But consider the alternative. Without Foliage, humanity faces extinction or subjugation. The Council has made its position clear. We either assert our right to exist as equals, or we accept their terms and wither." Mira stared at her hands for a long moment before looking up. "What exactly would activation entail?" "Simultaneous emergence," Director Cho explained. 412 hidden facilities across 87 star systems will activate at once. Our fleets will position themselves at strategic locations, not to attack, but to demonstrate capability and resolve. "A show of force," Mira translated. "A revelation of truth," corrected the Admiral. "We're not seeking war, Ambassador. We're preventing one by removing the temptation our perceived weakness presents." Mira's diplomatic training had prepared her for complex ethical dilemmas, but nothing of this magnitude. The fate of humanity rested on her decision. "I need time to consider," she began. "Time is the one luxury we don't have," interrupted Admiral Shepard. "The moment you left that council chamber, the countdown began. Their fleets are already moving to enforcement positions. Our intelligence confirms it." Layla's console chimed urgently. "Ambassador, we're receiving reports of Zephyrian vessels entering the Ross 128 system. They're targeting our research station." Mira closed her eyes briefly, centering herself. When she opened them, her decision was made. "Admiral Shepard, Director Cho, she said formally. As Earth's appointed representative to the Galactic Council, I hereby authorize activation of the Foliage Protocol, effective immediately. The weight of those words hung in the air for a moment before Admiral Shepard nodded grimly. Activation code, Shepard Sierra Tango 17 Delta, he stated. Director Cho followed. Confirmation code, Cho Charlie Hotel 39 Epsilon. Transmission complete, Layla reported quietly. Signal acknowledged. Mira stood, smoothing her diplomatic uniform. Now we return to the council chamber. Thomas looked alarmed. Ambassador, once they realize what's happening, they need to hear it from me, Mira stated firmly. This isn't an act of war. It's a declaration of our right to exist. And I intend to make that distinction perfectly clear. As their shuttle returned to the docking bay, Mira felt a strange calm settle over her. For the first time since the negotiations began, humanity was not approaching from a position of weakness. Whatever happened next would reshape the galaxy, and she would ensure it was shaped toward justice, not merely power. Across 87 star systems, humanity's hidden strength began to stir. Captain Nasir Rafik had spent 15 years of his life maintaining a lie. As commander of what appeared to be a modest mining operation in the Proxima Centauri system, he had overseen the extraction of common metals and minerals, a steady but unimpressive operation that drew little attention from passing council vessels. What the council didn't know, what no one outside a select group of Earth military and scientific personnel knew, was that beneath the mundane surface operation lay one of humanity's largest shipyards, 12 kilometers of manufacturing facilities, engineering bays, and launch platforms, all concealed beneath a mountain range on Proxima B's dark side. When the activation signal arrived, Captain Rafik was reviewing maintenance logs in his Spartan office. The console before him flashed a simple message: Foliage active, authorization confirmed. For a moment, he simply stared at the words. 15 years of preparation, of maintaining cover, of building in secret, all culminating in this moment. He pressed the base-wide communication system. All personnel, this is Captain Rafik. Foliage protocol is now active. I repeat, Foliage protocol is active. Proceed to emergency stations and prepare for facility revelation. This is not a drill. Throughout the base, hidden bulkheads began to slide open. Disguised hangar doors built into mountainsides slowly retracted. Power systems that had been running at minimal capacity for years suddenly surged to full strength, illuminating massive underground chambers where sleek warships waited in perfect formation. Lieutenant Maria Vega, Rafik's second-in-command, entered his office, her face a mixture of tension and exhilaration. Sir, all systems responding. The fleet is powering up. Rafik nodded, standing to don the formal military uniform he'd kept stored away for years. No more mining administrators' utilitarian coveralls. Today, he would command a battle group. Status of the orbital disguise network, he asked, fastening the insignia of Earth Fleet Command to his collar. Disengaging now, sir. Holographic camouflage deactivating on schedule. Our true signature will be visible to Council sensors in approximately 12 minutes. Rafik moved briskly toward the command center, Vega falling into step beside him. And the Ross system? Any word from Captain Takahashi's operation? Simultaneous activation confirmed. Sir, they're ahead of schedule. Zephyrian vessels had already entered their space when the protocol activated. Rafik's expression darkened. Casualties? None reported. The Zephyrians were apparently as surprised as everyone else when 23 warships suddenly appeared where they thought there was only a research outpost. They reached the command center, a vast chamber that had, until an hour ago, been disguised as a storage facility for mining equipment. Now it hummed with activity as officers took their stations, bringing systems online that had been waiting years for this moment. Main display, Rafik ordered, and the central holographic projection activated, showing their immediate stellar neighborhood. Small icons represented known Council vessels. 3 Vexar trading ships passing through the system. A Thra scout. 2 astronomical units out. "They've noticed," Vega reported, monitoring the communications array. "The Vexar vessels are broadcasting confusion. The Thra scout is... Sir, it's requesting emergency departure clearance from local space." A grim smile touched Rafiq's lips. "Let them run. Let them all see." On the display, new icons were appearing, blue markers representing human vessels emerging from hidden docks, powering up engines that had never before been revealed to Council sensors. "First wave launch in 3 minutes," announced the flight controller. "All vessels report ready status." Rafiq took his command position, surveying the organized chaos of humanity's emergence from shadow. "Lieutenant Vega, open a channel to all human facilities in the Proxima system." She worked her console. "Channel open, sir." Rafiq straightened, feeling the weight of history on his shoulders. "This is Captain Nasir Rafiq of Earth Fleet Command. Today, we reveal ourselves not as aggressors, but as guardians. Our mission is demonstration, not destruction. We will show strength with restraint, power with purpose. Remember your training. Remember that we fight only if forced. The future of humanity, and perhaps of a more just galactic order, depends on our discipline today." He paused, then added more softly, "It has been my honor to serve with you in shadow. Now, let us serve with pride in the light." Rafiq out. As the channel closed, he turned to Vega. "Status of the Ross operation." Her expression was tense as she studied incoming data. "Zephyrian forces have withdrawn to a defensive position. Captain Takahashi reports no shots fired. Yet." Rafiq nodded. "And the other facilities?" "All reporting successful activation. Fleets emerging at all designated points." She looked up, her eyes reflecting the blue glow of the tactical display. "Sir, it's working. Exactly as planned." "Not exactly," Rafiq corrected, watching as the icons representing Council vessels scrambled in disarray across the projection. "Now comes the true test. Not whether we can reveal ourselves, but whether we can do so without triggering the very war we've spent a century preparing to prevent." Across the display, hundreds of blue markers continued to appear where none had been before. Humanity's hidden strength, finally exposed to the light of distant stars. In the Ross system, Lieutenant Commander Elijah Takahashi faced a more immediate crisis. The Foliage protocol had activated just as 3 Zephyrian warships entered weapons range of his supposed research outpost. The sudden emergence of 23 human battlecruisers from concealed hangars beneath the station had caught the Zephyrians completely off guard. "They're demanding explanation, sir," reported his communications officer, rather forcefully. Takahashi, still adjusting his newly donned uniform, studied the tactical display. The Zephyrian vessels had fallen back, but maintained aggressive posture. One wrong move could trigger a firefight. "Open a channel," he ordered. When the connection was established, he addressed the Zephyrian commander directly. "This is Lieutenant Commander Takahashi of Earth Fleet Command. Your vessels have entered sovereign human territory without authorization. We request your immediate withdrawal to a distance of at least 1 astronomical unit." The Zephyrian commander's reptilian features filled the screen, scales flaring with agitation. "Deception! Treachery! The Council will hear of this violation." "There is no violation of Council law," Takahashi replied calmly. "Humanity has never signed any treaty prohibiting military development. We have simply chosen to reveal our capabilities now." "You were ordered to dismantle outposts beyond your home system," the Zephyrian hissed. "That order was rejected by our government," Takahashi stated firmly. "Now, I ask again, please withdraw your vessels to a safe distance. We have no desire for conflict." For a tense moment, it seemed the Zephyrian might order an attack. Then, with obvious reluctance, he signaled retreat. "This is not over, human. The Council will respond." "We're counting on it," Takahashi replied, before closing the channel. His second-in-command approached with a status report. All vessels operational, sir. The fleet is ready for deployment. Takahashi nodded, watching as the Zephyrian ships slowly backed away. Maintain position. Monitor their communications but take no aggressive action. Remember, we're here to demonstrate capability, not to start a war. Similar scenes were playing out across dozens of star systems as humanity's hidden infrastructure revealed itself. At the galactic core, the Council erupted in chaos. Ambassador Mira Tanaka stood in the center of the storm. She had returned to the Council chamber just as the first reports began arriving of human military assets appearing where none should exist. The chamber, normally a model of detached diplomatic protocol, had dissolved into pandemonium. "Explain yourself, Ambassador," demanded High Magistrate Vexar, crystal form pulsating with energetic patterns that the translator rendered as extreme agitation. "What deception is this?" The Thra Hive matron's mandibles clicked so rapidly that the translator struggled to keep pace. "Infiltration! Invasion! The human cancer spreads!" Grand Admiral Cathran, however, maintained a calculating silence. His reptilian eyes narrowed as he processed the strategic implications of what was unfolding. Mira waited for the initial outburst to subside before speaking. When she did, her voice carried the quiet authority of one who no longer needed to plead. "Distinguished delegates of the Galactic Council," she began, "humanity has activated its defensive capabilities in response to your ultimatum. For too long, we have been perceived as weak, as unworthy of equal standing among the stars. Today, that misperception ends." She activated a holographic display in the center of the chamber, showing the full extent of humanity's revealed presence. Hundreds of vessels, bases, and installations across a wide swath of the galactic arm. "What you see is not an invasion force," Mira continued. "It is not a prelude to war. It is simply the truth we have kept hidden while we assessed whether the Council would accept us as equals or treat us as subjects." "You have deceived the Council for decades," Vexar accused. "Such duplicity proves humans cannot be trusted." Mira met his faceted gaze steadily. "And your ultimatum proved that honesty would have led to our extinction. We chose survival." "The Council will respond with united force," threatened the Thra matron. "Your species will be—" "Will be what?" Mira interrupted, her patience finally exhausted. "Contained? Destroyed? Look at the display. Matron, human vessels now hold position near every major Thra conquest fleet. Similar forces shadow Vexar mining operations and Zephyrian border outposts." For the first time, Grand Admiral Cathran spoke. "You threaten us with destruction?" "No," Mira said firmly. "We prevent you from threatening us. There is a difference." She expanded the holographic display, highlighting several key locations. "Note that our forces are in defensive formation only. We have fired no weapons, made no aggressive moves. We simply reveal ourselves as we truly are, a civilization worthy of respect and equal standing." The Council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The strategic balance that had defined galactic politics for centuries had shifted in a single day. "What do you want?" asked Cathran finally, his practical nature asserting itself. Mira deactivated the display and looked at each delegate in turn. "What we have always wanted: the right to exist, the right to grow, the right to trade and travel and explore without artificial constraints imposed by those who simply arrived in this part of the galaxy before us." She paused, then added, "And we extend that same right to every species, not just ourselves." The Galactic Council was formed to maintain peace, yet it has become an instrument of domination. That ends today. "You speak of rights," hissed Cathran, "yet you build weapons in secret." "We built protection," Mira corrected. "And now we will use that protection not just for ourselves, but for all species who have suffered under the Council's selective interpretation of peace." As if on cue, her communications officer transmitted new information to the central display. It showed human vessels moving to interpose themselves between Thra conquest fleets and several smaller, vulnerable civilizations on the galactic fringe. Operation Good Neighbor has commenced, Mira announced. Humanity will no longer stand by while the powerful prey upon the weak. We invite the Council to join us in building a truly just galactic community, or to stand aside as we build it without you. The silence that followed was profound. Eventually, it was the Zepyrian Grand Admiral who broke it. You have altered the equation, he acknowledged reluctantly. The Imperium will consider your proposal. One by one, the other delegates indicated their grudging willingness to enter new negotiations. Not out of moral revelation, Mira knew, but out of pragmatic recognition of changed circumstances. It was enough. It was a beginning. As the council adjourned to consult with their respective governments, Mira allowed herself a small, private smile. Humanity had gambled everything on this moment, on the belief that revealing strength could create an opportunity for genuine peace. The real work, the hard work of building a more just galactic order, still lay ahead. But for the first time since humans had looked up at the stars and dreamed of their place among them, that dream seemed possible. In the days that followed, the galaxy held its breath. Across dozens of star systems, human vessels maintained their positions, neither advancing nor retreating, simply existing as a new reality that could not be wished away. Council species scrambled to reassess their intelligence, to understand how they had missed such massive military development, to determine whether to risk conflict or seek accommodation. On Earth, Admiral Shepard and Director Cho monitored the unfolding situation from the Strategic Command Center beneath the Rocky Mountains. The facility, once America's NORAD headquarters centuries earlier, had been expanded into a global command post for humanity's defense. Zepyrian fleet movements in the Epsilon Eridani sector, reported a sensor analyst. They appear to be withdrawing from their forward positions near the Talani homeworld. Director Cho nodded with satisfaction. As expected, they're consolidating their forces, minimizing exposure until they determine our intentions. Admiral Shepard studied the vast holographic display, showing real-time positions of all known vessels, human and alien, across their section of the galaxy. The Thra are less cautious. Their conquest fleet near Procyon maintains aggressive posture. They're testing us, Cho replied, seeing if our good neighbor declaration has substance. Shepard's expression hardened. Then we should demonstrate that it does. He activated a communication channel. Task Force Sentinel. This is Admiral Shepard. Move to position Bravo 3. Interpose your vessels between the Thra fleet and Procyon Fru. Weapon status defensive only. Acknowledge. Acknowledged, Admiral, came the prompt reply. Moving to Bravo 3. Estimated arrival, 17 minutes. Shepard closed the channel and turned to Cho. We knew the Thra would be the most difficult to convince. Their hive mentality views other species as either threats or resources. Which category do they place us in now, I wonder? Cho mused. Unknown, Shepard admitted. But they're about to learn that threats to smaller species will no longer be tolerated. On the display, blue markers representing the human task force began moving toward the indicated position, directly in the path of the Thra conquest fleet that had been advancing on the fledgling civilization of Procyon 4. Director Cho watched the movement with a mixture of pride and apprehension. 100 years of preparation, and now everything depends on whether we can translate military capability into diplomatic leverage without firing a shot. That's always been the plan, Shepard reminded her. Build strength not to conquer, but to protect, to create space for a different kind of galactic community. And if the Thra force the issue, if they attack, Shepard's jaw tightened. Then we demonstrate that our capabilities extend beyond fleet size. But let's hope it doesn't come to that. In space near Procyon 4. Captain Erica Chen. No. Captain Erica Lawson commanded Task Force Sentinel with the steady hand of a veteran who had trained her entire career for a moment she had never been certain would arrive. As her vessels moved to block the Thra advance, she maintained strict communication discipline. "All ships maintain formation," she ordered. "Defensive systems at full capacity, but weapons locked. We are here to protect, not provoke." Her tactical officer reported, "3 vessels adjusting course. Captain, they appear to be... they're forming an attack pattern." Lawson nodded grimly. "As expected. Open a channel to their command vessel." When the connection was established, she addressed the Thra commander directly. "This is Captain Lawson of Earthfleet Command. Your forces are approaching a protected civilization. We request you alter course immediately." The response came in the form of a visual feed, showing a chamber filled with countless insectoid forms, moving in perfect synchronization. A single Thra stepped forward, its mandibles clicking rhythmically. "The collective does not recognize human protection claims," the translator rendered. "The species of Procyon 4 has resources the collective requires. Stand aside, or be eliminated." Lawson maintained perfect composure. "I'm afraid we cannot comply. Earth has declared Procyon 4 and its people under our protection. Any aggressive action against them will be considered an act of war against humanity." The Thra's compound eyes reflected the chamber's harsh light. "Your vessels are outnumbered. The collective does not fear your deception-built fleet. Numbers alone do not determine military outcomes," Lawson replied evenly. "But perhaps a demonstration would be instructive." She nodded to her weapons officer, who activated a specific system that had never before been revealed to any non-human entity. On the Thra visual feed, the commander suddenly stiffened as all ship-to-ship communications within the Thra fleet simultaneously ceased. "What you are experiencing," Lawson explained calmly, "is our neural disruption field. It severs the telepathic connection that coordinates your hive vessels. Your ships can still operate independently, but the collective coordination that makes your fleet effective is temporarily disabled." The Thra commander's mandibles clicked furiously, but no coherent response emerged. After several moments of apparent internal struggle, it regained enough composure to speak. "This technology is unknown to us." "That was the intention," Lawson confirmed. "Now, I ask again, please withdraw your forces from Procyon space. We have no desire for conflict, but we will protect the innocent from aggression." For long moments, the Thra commander seemed to be engaged in internal communication, likely attempting to compensate for the severed fleet coordination. Finally, it responded. "The collective will withdraw, temporarily. This matter is not resolved." "Perhaps not," Lawson agreed. "But it is postponed to diplomatic channels, where it belongs. Thank you for your cooperation." As the Thra vessels slowly altered course away from the vulnerable planet, Lawson allowed herself a small sigh of relief. The neural disruption technology, one of humanity's most closely guarded developments, had worked perfectly. More importantly, they had achieved their objective without firing a single weapon. "Maintain position," she ordered her fleet, "and establish contact with the Procyon government. Let them know they have friends in the galaxy." Similar scenarios played out across multiple star systems, as humanity's revealed fleets interposed themselves between aggressive council forces and their intended targets. Not all confrontations were resolved as peacefully as Captain Lawson's encounter with the Thra, but the message was clear. The era of unchecked predation upon weaker species had ended. On Lino Station, Ambassador Mira Tanaka received reports of these developments with cautious optimism. Her diplomatic team had expanded, now including military advisors and representatives from several smaller species who had suffered under Council dominance. "The Vexar mining operation near Tau Ceti has withdrawn," reported Thomas Wright. "Apparently, They decided their crystal extraction wasn't worth the risk of confrontation with our defense fleet. Mira nodded. And the indigenous civilization there? Already expressing gratitude. They're requesting formal alliance with Earth. Not alliance, Mira corrected. Partnership. We're not building a human-dominated alternative to the Council. We're creating something new. Her communications officer approached with a priority message. Ambassador, the Council delegates are requesting your presence. They're prepared to discuss new terms. Mira took a moment to gather herself, to prepare for what might be the most important diplomatic encounter of her life. Very well. Let's see if they've truly understood our message. The council chamber, when she entered, had a markedly different atmosphere than during her previous appearances. Gone was the dismissive condescension, the barely concealed contempt. In its place was a wary respect, still not warmth, but at least recognition of changed reality. Ambassador Tanaka. High Magistrate Vexar acknowledged, his crystalline form subdued in its light patterns. The Council has reassessed its position regarding humanity's status. I'm pleased to hear it, Mira replied, taking her seat at the table, now positioned at equal height with the other delegates. A small, but significant concession. The Thra Collective recognizes human capability, stated the matron. Mandibles moving slowly, in what Mira had learned, indicated reluctant acceptance. Coordination disruption technology is impressive. Grand Admiral Cathran was more direct. You have shown teeth, human. The Zapirian Imperium respects strength. We will negotiate new boundaries. Mira allowed herself a small smile. I appreciate your willingness to reconsider. However, I must clarify. Humanity is not interested in negotiating boundaries for ourselves alone. We seek a fundamental restructuring of galactic relations. The delegates exchanged glances of confusion. Explain, demanded Vexar. Mira activated a holographic display, showing multiple star systems where human forces had intervened to protect smaller civilizations. In the past week, Earth vessels have prevented 15 separate acts of aggression against vulnerable species. These civilizations have lived under threat of conquest, resource theft, or extinction for generations. That ends now. You propose to protect them all? Thrawn asked incredulously. To fight endless wars across the galaxy? I propose we all protect them, Mira corrected. That the Council transform from an instrument of domination into a true body of galactic governance, one that upholds the rights of all sentient species. Not just the powerful. Impossible, clicked the Thra matron. Resources are finite. Competition is natural. Cooperation is also natural, Mira countered, and far more efficient in the long term. The energy your civilizations expend on conquest and defense could be directed toward exploration, toward pushing the boundaries of known space, rather than fighting over the same limited territories. She expanded the holographic display, showing the vast, unexplored regions beyond Council space. There are wonders waiting to be discovered, resources beyond calculation. But we'll never reach them if we remain trapped in cycles of domination and resistance. For the first time in Council history, the delegates fell silent, not out of dismissal, but contemplation. Finally, Grand Admiral Cathran spoke. You propose a new council. With what authority? Mira's expression was calm, but resolute. With the authority of demonstrated power, used for protection rather than conquest. With the moral authority of standing for justice rather than dominance. She paused, then added, and with the practical authority of a fleet that currently shadows every major military installation of the three Council powers. We would prefer to deactivate those vessels, to redirect our resources toward mutual advancement. But that choice depends on you. Another long silence followed as the delegates communicated with their respective governments. Eventually, High Magistrate Vexar spoke. The Crystalline Conclave is willing to explore this concept, with caution. The Thra matron's mandibles clicked in what the translator rendered as reluctant acquiescence. The collective will observe these discussions. Admiral Cathran's reptilian features formed what might have been a smile, or a grimace. The Imperium acknowledges the changed balance. We will participate in reshaping the Council. Mira nodded, careful not to display too much satisfaction. This was only the beginning of a long, difficult process. But it was a beginning few would have thought possible a month ago. Then, I propose we convene at a neutral location, perhaps the newly constructed Harmony Station at the midpoint between our territories. There, we can draft the framework for a truly inclusive galactic governance structure. As the delegates agreed to her proposal, Mira allowed herself to hope that humanity's great gamble might yet yield more than mere survival. It might create the foundation for a fundamentally more just cosmos. 3 months later, the newly formed Galactic Protection Council convened for its inaugural session aboard Harmony Station. The massive habitat, constructed in orbit around a neutron star at the junction of several major trade routes, hummed with activity as representatives from 27 species, not just the former Council powers, but many of the smaller civilizations that had long been excluded from galactic governance, gathered to chart a new course. Ambassador Mira Tanaka, now serving as Earth's permanent representative to the GPC, stood at the observation deck, watching as ships of various designs docked at the station. The diversity of vessels reflected the diversity of cultures now participating in this bold experiment. Admiral Shepard joined her, his formal dress uniform gleaming under the station's lights. Quite a sight, isn't it? The Talani and Vexar vessels sharing a docking bay, Zephyrian engineers collaborating with Proxima scientists on environmental systems. Mira nodded, allowing herself a moment of satisfaction. It's progress, fragile, tentative progress. But progress, nonetheless. Shepard affirmed. The Foliage Protocol accomplished what it was designed to do. It created space for a different kind of relationship. At what cost, though? Mira asked quietly. Trust will be difficult to rebuild after a century of deception. Perhaps, Shepard acknowledged. But I prefer a galaxy where we're working to rebuild trust, rather than one where we're fighting to survive extinction. Director Cho approached, datapad in hand. The preliminary working groups are ready to begin. Ambassador, resource sharing, territorial dispute resolution, and technology exchange protocols are all on today's agenda. Mira took a deep breath, preparing for the complex negotiations ahead. And the military transition plan? That's scheduled for the afternoon session, Cho replied. The Thra are still resistant to the mutual drawdown proposal, but they're at least willing to discuss monitoring mechanisms. Progress, Mira repeated, more to herself than her companions. As they made their way to the main council chamber, they passed delegations from worlds that, until recently, had lived in constant fear of conquest or destruction. The representatives from Procyon Fur, amphibious beings with iridescent skin, bowed respectfully as Mira passed. The delegation from Tau Ceti's indigenous civilization offered their traditional greeting of crossed tentacles. The council chamber itself was a marvel of inclusive design, with environmental sections adapted to the needs of each species, aquatic areas for water breathers, high-gravity zones for species from dense worlds, crystalline interfaces for the Vexar delegates. As Mira took her position at the human delegation station, she caught sight of Grand Admiral Cathran across the chamber. The Zephyrian leader acknowledged her with a slight nod. Not friendship, certainly, but a gesture of professional respect that would have been unthinkable 6 months ago. The session began with formal declarations from each delegation, statements of intent and aspiration that set the tone for the new council. When it came time for Earth's declaration, Mira stepped forward to address the assembled representatives. Distinguished delegates, honored guests, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustics. 6 months ago, humanity faced an ultimatum: accept containment or face destruction. Today, we gather not as dominators and dominated, but as equals committed to a different vision of galactic civilization. She paused, looking around at the diverse assemblage. The Foliage Protocol was conceived in fear. Fear that the galaxy as it existed would never accept humanity as equals. Today, we begin the process of replacing fear with hope, suspicion with cooperation, dominance with mutual respect. Murmurs of approval rippled through several delegations. Earth commits its strength not to conquest, but to protection. We pledge our resources not to competition, but to collaboration. We offer our knowledge, not for advantage, but for advancement of all. She gestured toward the observation window, where the neutron star's focused brilliance illuminated the gathered vessels of dozens of civilizations. Look outside. See vessels that once threatened each other now docked side by side. See species that once competed now collaborating. This is the true power of the galaxy, not in weapons or territory, but in the combined creativity and wisdom of diverse minds working toward common purpose. She concluded simply, humanity stands ready to help build this new galactic community, not as its leader, but as its partner. Thank you. As Mira returned to her seat, the chamber erupted in the various sounds of approval unique to each species. Clicks, hums, flashes of bioluminescence, subsonic vibrations that humans could feel, but not hear. Director Cho leaned close. They're responding well. Even the Thra seem receptive. It's a beginning, Mira replied cautiously. The real test will come when we start discussing specific treaty provisions, resource allocations, military limitations. One step at a time, Ambassador. Admiral Shepard advised. We've created the opportunity. Now we build on it, day by day. As the session progressed into detailed working groups, Mira found herself partnered with representatives from the Vexar Crystalline Conclave to develop protocols for scientific exchange. The Vexar delegate, a smaller crystal entity, named Lithvar, approached the task with unexpected openness. Your species concealed much, Lithvar observed, multifaceted structure, refracting light in patterns of curious intensity. The neural disruption technology particularly intriguing, Mira nodded. We developed it specifically as a non-lethal means of defense. Our goal was never destruction, only deterrence. Efficient approach, Lithvar acknowledged. The Conclave has reassessed human cognitive capacity. Previous estimates, severely inadequate. Perhaps that's true of all of us, Mira suggested. Perhaps we've all underestimated each other's potential when we view relations only through the lens of competition. The crystal being shifted. Light patterns indicating what might have been thoughtful consideration. Perspective alters reality. Intriguing concept. We'll explore further. Similar conversations were happening throughout the station, as former adversaries cautiously explored new ways of interaction. Not all were as productive as Mira's exchange with Lithvar. Centuries of distrust and competition could not be erased in a single conference, but each represented a step away from the brink of conflict and toward a more stable future. By the end of the week-long inaugural session, the Galactic Protection Council had established its foundational principles, created working groups for ongoing collaboration, and, most significantly, adopted a mutual security agreement that formally recognized the rights of all sentient species to exist free from threat of conquest or extinction. As the delegations prepared to depart, Mira found herself again at the observation deck, watching the choreographed departure of vessels returning to their home systems. Admiral Shepard and Director Cho joined her for a final moment of reflection. Operation Good Neighbor has been formalized, Shepard reported. Joint protection fleets with mixed species crews will begin patrolling the borders of vulnerable civilizations next month. And 17 technological exchange programs are now active, added Cho. Everything from medical research to sustainable energy production. The Vexar are particularly interested in our atmospheric processing techniques. Mira nodded, a sense of cautious optimism settling over her. So the Foliage Protocol ends not with war, but with partnership. Not exactly what its creators envisioned, I imagine. On the contrary, Shepard replied with a slight smile. This was always the hope, that by removing the temptation our perceived weakness presented, we could create space for genuine cooperation. The gamble paid off, Cho agreed. Though we'll be navigating the consequences for generations. Mira watched as a Thra vessel and a human cruiser executed a synchronized departure maneuver. A small, but symbolic demonstration of new cooperation. The hard work is just beginning, she reminded them. Building trust after deception, creating systems that serve all species equally, ensuring that power truly protects rather than dominates. These challenges will require more than military strength. They'll require wisdom, patience, and moral courage. Fortunately, Shepard said quietly, those have always been humanity's true strengths. Not our hidden fleets or secret technologies, but our capacity to imagine and work toward a better future than the one we inherited. As the last vessels disappeared into the star-studded darkness, Mira allowed herself to truly believe, for the first time, that such a future might be possible. Not guaranteed, not inevitable, but possible. A possibility worth every sacrifice and struggle it would surely demand. The galaxy had begun to fear humanity's revealed strength, but perhaps, in time, it would come to value humanity's revealed vision even more.